Dober dan, dobrodošli na še enem dogodku v seriji Svobodna Palestina. Najprej, preden mi z Nado nekaj poveva v seriji dogodkov, bi se rada zahvalila Pritličju za vsakoletno podporo, kjerkoli jo rabimo. Tretje leto zapored Vodnikova domačija, Gibanje za pravice Palestincev in številni partnerji, ne samo v Ljubljani, ampak tudi v Mariboru in letos v Kopru, pripravljamo serijo dogodkov, kjer se posvečamo predvsem temu, da v goste povabimo goste iz Palestine, tako da to je osnova, ki se vsako leto držimo. In izjemno me veseli, da je program tudi letos izjemen. Tele programske knjižice so na stolih in vse povsod. Poglejte si, na zadnji strani so ključni gostje letos opisani in dva med njimi gostimo tudi danes. Nada Pretnar iz Gibanja za pravice Palestincev bo nekaj povedala o kontekstu, v katerem to serijo tretje leto zapored pripravljamo.
Hvala. I'll continue in English if you don't mind, so Abubakar and Ahmed can follow what we're saying. Okay?
I understood everything.
No, I just wanted to add the reason why we're doing this, and specifically in this period in May, we decided right from the beginning 3 years ago to choose the week in which the Nakba is being commemorated on the 15th of May, and to dedicate the whole week to highlighting the richness of Palestinian culture and heritage. And this is especially important in the moment when Israel is trying to cancel, obliterate, eradicate the Palestinian people, and with them not only the structures and the infrastructures and the buildings, but also the aim is to obliterate any sign of their culture, which they have been frankly doing all from 1948 onwards. But through the genocide, this thing has been increased and escalated, and we think it is extremely important to give voice to the Palestinians, to stop being us speaking about Palestine, but hearing the Palestinian voice. And this is what we will do tonight as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tina and Nada. If we should continue, this is exactly what the journalists in Palestine are doing, are working on. That how much important it is to hear directly from them what is happening on the ground, even though any foreign journalists are forbidden from entering Gaza, even though we have to give so much credit and support to all Palestinian journalists in Gaza who are doing probably one of the most, if not the most important work in journalism in modern days. And that's why we should thank them. And as well, we have to, every time when we are speaking about journalism in Gaza and in the world, especially in the recent kind of commemorating the World Press Freedom Day, how many journalists have been killed just because they were doing their job. More than 260, if I'm correct, are the latest numbers, and this is something that strikes me every time. And thank you, everyone, to come to this kind of event today. Today we will be talking mostly about this profession, about the journalism in those days, especially affected by conflicts, by genocide in Gaza, and how we should talk about it at all. And it's my deepest pleasure and honor to speak with such important guests as is journalist Ahmed Alnaouqom. Thank you for being here. And if I'm also can say hi on the via web to Abubakerjem Abedom. Hi, do you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you very well.
And please excuse me for my English, because I'm also still under effect about yesterday evening when you had such an amazing event about this amazing book that we are having here as well. And I hope you will still enjoy this talk. My name is Gašper. I'm coming from the Journalists Association of Slovenia, and I'm also a journalist at National Radio Val 202. And thank you for being here. Of course, we will accept questions, especially I'm really very pleasure that here are also some young journalists I'm seeing in the audience, and would very much like to hear from you as well. First, if I would start like that, I'm wearing this sign, press, which is quite significant as well for journalists in Gaza as well, because in one way it's saying that they're journalists and they're doing this job to telling what is going on the field, but on the other hand, this sign is also a target, deliberate target that the Israeli army is using to attack them. What maybe this sign right now presents? What would you say, Ahmed?
Thank you very much. Well, this sign means different things to many people according to where you live. If you live in Gaza, as you have mentioned, this sign means that you have enlisted yourself in the killing list by the Israeli army, because being a journalist in Gaza means that these are the people who are exposing the Israeli war crimes to the world. Those people who, without them, the world would have been blind and deaf to what is really happening in Gaza. So they stand in the forefront of this fight against oppression and dehumanization and genocide. So this is what it means for people in Gaza. And unfortunately, the Israeli army meant to kill these journalists who live in Gaza. Unlike what they say in the media, the Israelis say that these journalists are not actual journalists or they are Hamas. But the fact that Israel wants to kill the journalists in Gaza, they go after the journalists in Gaza. Not only them, but they go after them and their families and their children. They bomb their homes because they know being a journalist in Gaza is one of the most dangerous things for the Israeli army, because the journalists are the ones who are exposing their crimes to the world. Israel wanted to kill the Palestinians. Israel wanted to commit this genocide in darkness. They wanted to kill and maim and shoot and rape and do all worst of things in the darkness without the world noticing them, because Israel knows that if the world knew exactly what they have done in Gaza, the world wouldn't have let Israel do it. And the journalists in Gaza and the citizen journalists in Gaza are the only ones who expose the Israeli crimes to the world. And for that, they have been enlisted in the target list in Palestine. So all my admiration for the Palestinian journalists who actually risked their life. They risked their life so that the world can understand what's really happening in Gaza. But also, press also means something else. And when I heard the word the press and media and journalists, sometimes it comes to my mind the international journalists, the mainstream, the Western mainstream media journalists, who have done everything in their power so that they parrot the Israeli lies, so that they suppress the Palestinian voices, so that they do everything that is contrary to their profession and ethics and morality. And they have provided Israel with the cover, with the atmosphere to carry out the genocide that we have seen over the past 2.5 years. So now there is a line between us and them. There is a line between the Palestinian journalists and the Western journalists, and it's a huge difference. And now if we have some journalists who are here, I think it is time that you choose. What kind of journalist do you want to be? Do you want to be that journalists who are willing to risk their life for a truth? Or do you want to be a journalist who is giving oppression and occupation and colonialism the cover to carry out their genocide and their propaganda and their war crimes? The Palestinians have shown you an example, and the Western leaders, the Western journalists have also shown you an example. So which one would you want to choose?
Do you maybe see any change of this recognition of Palestinian journalists in the international media outlets after 4 years, maybe? Because in the first days, we saw how they struggled to recognize the truth and to recognize what Palestinian journalists were doing. How that changed maybe after 4 years? How do you see it?
Well, I have seen a lot of recognition for the Palestinian journalists who have been risking their life, but not by their fellow journalists in the West, by the common people, the average people. I have seen a lot of recognition. But unfortunately, even after 2.5 years of a genocide, the mainstream media in the West still doesn't consider or appreciate the work that the Palestinian journalists have done. We still see many outlets in the West, many journalists in the West who still gaslight their people, who still lie about our Palestinian journalists, who still repeat the Israeli accusations that meant to silence our Palestinian journalists. And it's shameful.
Abu Bakr, on the line, how do you see this? You are a journalist as well, very young, very couraged, but you were so much struggling. You said in one interview about leaving Gaza. Why did you choose actually to become a journalist?
Well, since October 2023, when the events happened and the suffering happened in Gaza, I was witnessing and living these horrifying events, people being displaced, people being starved, people being mass bombarded every single day. So I felt like I had the ability to speak to Western audiences. I could speak English very well at that time. And I felt the duty to cover the stories from Gaza and tell them to the outside world. So that's why I started reporting on Gaza since October 2023, despite the fact that, and Ahmed is also very well aware of, that I never wanted to become a war correspondent. I think this is something that I've never been interested in. And I always wanted to be a football reporter and commentator, which I've done in the past. But the circumstances that have been enforced upon me and upon many other journalists made everyone in Gaza a journalist or a witness to what is happening. And I was one of them. And then seeing all what has been unfolding in Gaza, there was no choice to stay silent. I knew from the start that there would be a prize, there would be a huge prize, and I know that this might end up with an assassination or bombing of my family or the erasure of my neighborhood. I knew that, I realized that fully, but I continued to do what I did because I felt that this was duty, not towards only my homeland, but towards the people who are bearing witness or watching this live streamed genocide.
Yes, you said duty. I mean, journalists who are in Gaza right now, this is going on. This genocide is going on now for years, multiple years already now, and they are still there. They are still striving. What can you say, Abu Bakr, when you are connected to them, and when you are speaking? What drives journalists in Gaza to keep reporting, even though we said it makes them targets themselves?
I believe the reason why they kept reporting is because they have no other choice, and being silent is not even a choice for them in Gaza. And to report on everything and everything that happened, and they knew, as you said, that they would, or they were going to be targets, and this what has actually happened over the past almost 3 years. And we have a number of now 260 journalists that have been killed by Israel since this genocide broke out. They have no choice. What else should they do? Everyone is witnessing a live streamed war crime in front of their eyes. Everyone is going through it, not even necessarily witness it. Everyone is suffering. So they have to tell the world. They have to do some catharsis. They have to vent their pain to the outside world and tell them that, well, this is what is actually taking place here. This is what we are going through here. So would you please come in and stop what is hurting us? But unfortunately, even though we have been screaming at the top of our lungs to the outside world that, well, this has been happening and should have ended since the first days. Israel's waged a genocidal war from the beginning. Palestinians told the world from the beginning that this was a genocide, but the world chose to wait for white people to tell them it's a genocide, to wait for international people, foreign people to tell them it's a genocide, to wait for Israeli academics to tell them that it's a genocide, because the world, the vast majority of the world, I believe, not necessarily the people, they don't see Palestinians as competent, equal human beings. They see them as second-class citizens who are not trustworthy, who are not credible, and that is what has led to the catastrophe in Gaza. That's actually the reason of the apocalyptic conditions that have been created in Gaza. That's why Gaza is now rendered uninhabitable at the moment, because the world allowed it. And this is what has happened over years, that the enemy, and for Israel and the West, I believe Palestine is an enemy, for the world leaders at least, they have been presenting us as savages and barbarians. So there has to be no humane treatment of us at all. And this is why we lived through a genocide for 2.5 years, more than that.
Thank you. Ahmed, you said yesterday in the talk in Vodnikova Domačija how difficult it is to write articles on the ground. We cannot imagine, actually, in those circumstances. I mean, we probably, those who are here, probably saw precious to set photos, documentaries being done basically with a very, very basic equipment. Can you just maybe tell us how does it work, the work of journalists on the ground in Gaza, when you're speaking to your colleagues, how they actually manage to work one story? Maybe it's when it's so difficult to survive. How can you even manage to write?
Well, I think Abu Bakr can answer this question better than me, because Abu Bakr was in Gaza for 18 months in the genocide, and he was still reporting from Gaza, and that's, in my opinion, it's marvelous. You know, I haven't seen in my life people who live under genocide, who have no electricity, who have no internet connection, who live in tents, who live under constant threat of being killed and murdered and shot at, and they still continued to write their stories. They still continue to take their pictures. They still continue to make their films in Gaza, risking their own lives. And my experience with it, although I wasn't in Gaza at that time, but We Are Not Numbers, we have dealt with hundreds of writers in Gaza. And to be honest, when the genocide started, I thought, okay, that would be the end of We Are Not Numbers. No one would want to write for We Are Not Numbers anymore. And why would they write their stories in English? Why would they write to the West at a time that the West is murdering the Palestinian people and killing them day and night? And even if they want to write, how would they write with no electricity, with no laptops, with no internet connection, living under fear all the time? But I was surprised that the number of stories we received every month was way more, 4 times more than the stories that we received before the genocide. But we would talk to our writers and they would say they would write their stories on their phones. And then they would wait 1 or 2 or 3 days, the moment they have internet connection, and then they would send it to us, their stories. And Abubakar can attest to that. He was recording his films and his videos, and he would wait for a day or 2 when he has an internet connection so that he posted. And they were working under impossible circumstances, but yet they continued to produce, they continued to write, they continued to inspire the world, despite all the odds. And these are the people who live the genocide, And at the same time, we have journalists in the West who have all the luxuries in the world, who have all the privileges in the world, who have all the equipment in the world, and they just scared to write a tweet or to talk or speak or defy the orders that want them to demonize the Palestinians and dehumanize them. And that is the stark difference between the Palestinian journalists and the rest of the journalists.
Abu Bakr, please, can you continue maybe?
Ahmed is right. You mentioned something really important, and I think writing an article or a piece in Gaza is extremely tortuous and cumbersome. It's not easy at all. It's very difficult to do that. And the first reason is, as Ahmed says, that the electricity. I remember at the beginning of this genocide that I was making sure, or I was always making sure that the battery of my phone wouldn't run out, so I could next day go to a nearby internet connection point and send or file my story, because at night we were mainly depending on solar panels, and those solar panels, of course, they're charged by the sunbeams. And in winter times, because the genocide started in October, and that is the fall and the winter seasons in Gaza and Palestine. So in these times, we were not even able to do reporting at night. I also stayed up many nights at hospitals, and I didn't go back home just to talk to people over there and to talk to doctors. The doctors were extremely overwhelmed by the number of casualties arriving at the hospital every single hour from Israel's attacks on the territory. So I stayed many nights inside Gaza's hospitals, particularly Al-Aqsa Hospital in Deir al Balah, in the center of Deir al Balah, to report a story. And then I would wait for another day to file this story. Sometimes the internet doesn't work, so I have to, it was really difficult to send an email. Many times I tried to send an email and the email didn't go through because the internet was very spotty and was very fragile that it couldn't even send one email. And the second thing about writing a piece, because you talk to people, and since you mentioned that there are journalists, young journalists in the room, it's very significant because it's a cliche right now among Western journalists. When they write a story, they transcribe the words, the literal words, verbatim, just the verbatim or word for word, what their victims or what the victims say. For me, I didn't really follow this path, because the right path was to listen to the hearts of people, not to listen to what they say. This is what we call in journalism the death knock. And death knock journalism is really difficult when you approach people whose families have been slaughtered or whose homes have been destroyed. It's very difficult to talk to them. I remember doing a story about Sha'ban al-Dallo, the young man who was immolated in the courtyard of Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital in October 2024. And I approached his family. And when I approached his family, it was very unbearable and unthinkable to sit with them. So you have to listen to the words that come out of the heart of the victims, because sometimes they are not able to speak. What are you expecting them to speak? So you need to listen to their hearts. Here, in this position or in this situation, you're not working as a journalist first, but you're working, or your job is to be a human, is to console them, is to sit with them, is to relieve them from their pain, and then let them release that pain out, and then talk to them about it, and then you write the story. But it's always been really, really cumbersome and complicated to file a story or to write a story. And as Ahmed said, we always do this on phones. Sometimes I have my notebook here, it's just in the other room, and I was using it as my main thing to write notes and to listen to people. I wasn't even able to hold the phone outside. And it's an important point for people, because since we are talking about journalists in Gaza, that sometimes when you take your phone out to talk to people, everything is monitored. We have reports of WhatsApp and other technological companies that are giving intelligence to the Israelis. So sometimes I didn't do that, because it was a very scary moment for me to take a phone and meet people and everything is recorded. So I took my notebook because it's more safer for me to do so. And there are also other conditions that we always took in mind, that these people, you need to meet them in safe places, although there was no safe place in Gaza at all, but you need to meet them at their most convenient time. And I can tell you, like, we never had a chance, and this all what happened. And then what we received from Western media class is just dehumanization, and it's just doubting us to do that, and accusing us of being biased, although we've seen clearly they're the most pious people in the world, they're the cheapest sellouts in the world, and they're simply, for me, I think they must be held accountable. Just as easy as that.
Did you try? I mean, did you pitch your stories as well to the big international media?
I remember working with The Guardian in 2024, May 2024. I did a story with them, and after that, they told me, "Well, Abu Bakr, we're concerned by some of your tweets, making Jews feel unsafe," and that was complete nonsense. And then what I received from them is that, "Abu Bakr, I think we can't work with you anymore." They silenced me. And another time, the CNN, I remember CNN shortly after the ceasefire that happened in January 2025, and they approached me for an interview. And just hours later, they cancelled it because my views are troubling. That's what they say. And I think that's the climax of bias, and that is something that should be deplorable. It's disgusting. And that's not only time, it's many, many times. Even when I was interviewed regularly by the BBC, the BBC deliberately, every time I was on, they brought an Israeli or pro-Israeli guest before me or after me to claim or to put the blame on Hamas, that I'm suffering because of Hamas, that this guy, he should have voted Hamas out or something like that. So this is a systematic pattern in Western media to justify and rationalize the suffering of Palestinians, not only from or since October the 7th, but this is why they're here. They're here for capitalistic needs, for imperialist goals, and for their colonial expansionist project. That's why they're here. They don't believe in humanity, no.
Thank you for those very important insights, Abu Bakr. Ahmed, if I can continue with you, what is your maybe experience with big international media? You're also very exposed in one way or another. You You have been a guest on how should I categorize Piers Morgan? How was this experience?
Yeah, so I was a journalist in Gaza, during the March of Return, and I've seen how the mainstream media works in the March of Return, and then I came to the UK and I did my master's degree in journalism, and my dissertation was a study of how the mainstream media covers Gaza during the March of Return. And as I said many times before, all the research I've read, all the literature, all said that the mainstream media is so biased against the Palestinians, and that's not something new. But what I was shocked with is how far the mainstream media went during this genocide, how bad they went. And as you know, and during this genocide, Israel bombed my family home, killing the vast majority of my family members. 21 members of my family were killed, including 14 kids. And then I was active in social media in the UK, and after I lost my family, my tweets were going so viral in the UK. So the mainstream media were forced to cover my story. So I was interviewed by one of the biggest media TVs in the UK only a few days after I lost my family. And they were interrogating me. They were like, do you condemn Hamas? Is Hamas a terror organization? One journalist told me that my family are collateral damage and it's okay when Israel kills my family. And they were human shields. And they were so nasty to me, to a man who just lost all of his family in Gaza. That's how I was interviewed. And then even the other Zionist media organization, they came after me. Imagine someone lost all of his family members just because I said Israel killed my family. They come after me, intimidating, threatening, investigating, writing stories that are full of lies about me and about my family. It was relentless. But the interview with Piers Morgan wasn't the worst. Actually, it was okay. It was okay, because at least he was. I shouldn't say that, but I will. He was so stupid that he exposed himself to the world. He was so stupid, telling me, "You hate the Jews. You want to kill the Jews." Bro, we don't have a problem with the Jews. We have a problem with the Israelis. And he said that the Israelis are Jews and the Jews are Israelis. And it was like debating with a 5-year-old boy about the definition of things. But I don't think he's stupid. I think he's very clever. He's very smart, this man. He's the most prominent journalist, one of the most prominent in the West. So he's not a stupid. He knows the difference between the Jews and the Israelis. He knows exactly the difference between Jews and the Israelis because he himself has been hosting a lot of Jewish people who are anti-Israel and anti-Zionists. So he must have known the difference between them. But he chose to tell me that the Jews are the Israelis because he wants to play on the guilt that the Europeans have for the Jews because they massacred them on the Holocaust. And it wasn't my problem. You were anti-Semites. We're not anti-Semites. But these tropes are all often used in order to criminalize the Palestinians, in order to interrogate the Palestinians, to, as Loki said, to either enlist them in the Israeli propaganda or justify the killing of the Palestinians or criminalize them because in a way or another you could break the law if you answer in a different way. So it was disgusting. My experience with the mainstream media is disgusting, as everyone should know. But I eventually said, okay, I don't care about the mainstream media anymore. I shouldn't focus so much on how the mainstream media is bad and how they are doing wrong and all of it. Now, we should focus on how to build our own media, our alternative media outlets in which we can tell our story in the way that we deserve. And that is what we and Abubaker and so many others are focused on, building our own media, our own alternative media in which we can counter the mainstream media in the best way possible. And I believe it is really working because everyone, even in the West, everyone knows how the mainstream media is biased and how they are untrustworthy. And that's why we see everyone is turning to the alternative media outlets.
Can you maybe continue and tell us maybe how do you see it how do you see this this idea of alternative media, and how do you want to build it? In what way? How should it be?
Well, we should build media organizations that are unbiased, that are professional. That's it. We want professionalism. We want real journalism there. We don't want propaganda anymore. We want to build a media organization that gives their journalists the right to cover war crimes and to call people their names, their real names. We want a media that names the killer, for God's sake. It is time to name the killer. It's time to say that the Palestinians are killed. They don't just fall dead, you know? That's what we are calling for. We're not calling for the impossible. We're calling for a neutral, professional media organizations. And we are calling for a brave journalism. Enough with this cowardice. Enough with this cowardice. The world is waking up. The world has seen a genocide in front of their eyes. They have seen dead children. They have seen decimated children. They have seen emaciated bodies. They have seen people starve. They have seen beheaded babies, really, beheaded babies. And we have seen all of this for 2 years and a half, live on TV, 4K. And we have seen how the mainstream media covers that. Enough with that. We will never forget what we have seen in Gaza. I will never forget my family. Abu Bakr will never forget his country. We will never forget our Palestine. And our supporters will never forget us, and they will never forgive those who gave Israel the cover to carry out this genocide. And what I can see is really promising. Now, Mahdi Hassan, for example, I know some people don't like him here, but he was fed up with the mainstream media, and he started his own company. Now, if you go to 𝐍𝐸 and you look at the views, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's way more than the BBC and the Sky News and all of the rest of them. And you wonder, why is everyone is going to 𝐍𝐸, watching their podcasts and their news? It is because they want someone to represent them. If you go to Novara Media, for example, the same, Double Down in News, just two guys in the UK doing amazing work. They have over 1 million subscribers on YouTube. It's really promising. The Middle East Eye, Middle East Monitor, Al Jazeera, so many other alternative media outlets that have way more success than the established media that has been working for decades, you know. And that is a promising, and that's what gives me hope actually about the future of journalism.
We will still speak about the hope maybe towards, but we were speaking and talking about big mainstream media outlets in the West and how they patronizing the Palestinian journalists. But on the other hand, we have, for example, social media platforms. This genocide is also live streamed, we said, and social media platforms are having a big role in that, especially in the way how the Palestinian journalists are using them. But on the other hand, a lot of these social media platforms are going also against. And my question is, what do you think? Do social media platforms democratize the truth or fragment it?
Oh, hell no. I know. We have to give social media credit for documenting the genocide. We documented our genocide through social media, via social media. But we also understand that the social media has been shadow banning the Palestinian content for years, even before the genocide. Some of the biggest social media accounts of Palestinians have been blocked, have been limited, have been shadow banned. We don't have a freedom of expression on social media. I mean, even if you looked, we are not numbers of our organization. 10 years ago, we had 100,000 followers on Instagram, and now we have the same number. Our posts don't reach. Why? Because we know that we have been shadow banned, because we represent the Palestinian voices in the UK. And for so many other social media accounts on X, on Instagram, on Facebook, we have been shadow banned. We have been attacked. We have been fought by these platforms. But at the same time,
how do you feel about it?
I feel betrayed. I feel betrayed because these should be like social media. It should be for the public, and it should not be controlled. Algorithms should not go against the oppressed, the genocided. You know how disgusting this idea is when these platforms shadow ban and cancel Palestinian voices who are living a real-time genocide. You know, how disgusting is that? It's unbelievable. We all should feel betrayed by the social media. At the same time, now we have seen a new social media that is emerging, like 𝐀𝐻𝐸, for example, established by a Palestinian. But you know, here's the thing. Sometimes these problems have a one positive side, which is they are exposing themselves to us. And when they expose themselves to us, they are giving us an opportunity to start something that is good for everyone, that is neutral, that is respectful. They are giving us the chance to think of our own alternatives. And this is what we are doing when it comes to social media and when it comes to journalism and to media outlets.
Abubakar, maybe what's your experience with the social media platforms? How do you see it? How do you use it? What's your experience?
First, I don't like them, to be honest. Like for a very long time, I've never liked social media. I think it's become increasingly toxic over the past years, and some content is being pushed, and some other types of content are being censored and are being erased. So it's also something in the hands of the imperialists, and we have seen that clearly. TikTok has been the acquisition of TikTok was done by Larry Ellison, one of the richest pro-Israel billionaires in the world, and now they've appointed a very Zionist pro-genocide editor at CBS News, Barry Weiss, who incited against Dr. Rifat al-Hariri and led to his murder, and now they're endeavoring to, they're trying to buy CNN. And you can see that even Israeli officials have talked about that they want to buy these social media platforms to append the narrative in favor of Israel. But that is not working because people have been exposed to the truth. People have seen that a genocide has been perpetrated by Israel, co-perpetrated by the West, and Israel has been shielded by Arab regimes as well. So people know what is happening. People know what's right and what's wrong. And for me personally, I don't have that big social media following, especially on Instagram, which I set up newly. But I think there's a lot of things that I have, there are a lot of things that I have received notifications on that I can't post. For example, and this is a very important point, if you want to platform, because mainstream media says that, well, this is a war between Hamas and Israel, and it's complete nonsense, right? So if somebody wants to cover what Hamas says about this particular event, then it's not allowed. But if you want to regurgitate and repeat Israel's propaganda, the Israeli military claims, you are able to do so. And on other times, if you want to tell Palestinians, or if you want to allow Palestinians to talk about their experiences in an emotive way, that they have been massacred and slaughtered or genocided, you're being censored. You're not allowed to do that. And I've received that not only in social media. I've been subjected to that, not only in social media, but in events like this that I spoke at since I left Gaza. And it was very saddening for me to see. So on social media, in the last 3 years, almost 3 years, it's always been there that there's a high level of censorship, and there's a high level of skewed coverage that is being pushed by content creators. And I think I want to remind people of one great example, which is the change of the Islamic Republic of Iran flag to the Shah flag. And that was an extremely reckless and crazy decision by Twitter on X. Like how they changed this flag, which is the Islamic Republic of Iran is still existent. It's being bombed. It's being attacked, but they changed it to the Shah. And even if you ask Grok, the AI generated or models of answering people to questions. They have. If you ask them about something specific, last time I asked them about what is happening in Gaza, and the first paragraph they give to me is something about Israel, and that Israel has a right to defend itself. And I was subjected to one last experience, was subjected to a complete lie. And Grok, he was asked by some people publicly that Abu Bakr is a Hamas member, and he said, yes, Abu Bakr has said on Facebook that he's a Hamas member. I don't have a Facebook account. I don't have it. I've not, I don't have a Facebook account at all. So how has he made this claim up? And then after pushback, he retracted this. He withdrew his words and his answer, and he said, no, I was wrong first. And he was edited again to say, well, Abu Bakr hasn't shown public affiliation with any political group in Gaza or in Palestine. So you can see where we are going. And I think this is increasingly and significantly affecting the public opinion, and people are being fed up every day. So that's why it's important even to set up social media platform where people can migrate to from social media platforms that are owned by Zionist and pro-Zionist billionaires. But in the end, unfortunately, you have no control. And I think the reason behind that is the inaction and the failure of people or of people generally in the whole world to end it. But unfortunately, it's what it is.
We are approaching to the end of this conversation. So if you have any questions, we will of course accept a few. However, I have still one or two questions for both of you. Maybe Abu Bakr, if we can continue, it's kind of similar. You are both now based outside Gaza. Ahmed, you mentioned you are in London, in UK. Abu Bakr, you're in Ireland, right? And those two countries are very different, which in the way of approach to Palestine. And I would like to ask you, how do you feel in Ireland as a Palestinian journalist?
To be honest, I would say first as a Palestinian, just not without a journalist, not without a name. And I think it's been really agonizing. It's been really hard for me to adjust a new environment. And, you know, this is my first time outside Gaza. It's been a year. I left Gaza in April 2025. And it's my first ever year outside Gaza. I love Ireland for what it stands for. It loves Palestine. The people love Palestine. I've seen a lot of love and a lot of support from since day one. And I love it, but I think I've lost a lot of my identity since coming here. I miss being simple in my homeland. Deir al Balah is like we eat on the streets. We go without over-scheduling things here. If you want to meet somebody, you need to schedule it 1 month in advance, which is insane. And there are a lot of simple things. We play football barefoot in Gaza and in Deir al Balah. We go to the beach barefoot. We're very simple, like we're very connected with each other, and we go to agricultural landscapes without asking for permission or without paying a ticket of 50 or 70 euros to do so. I really miss a lot. I think I miss a lot of foods. I think the food in Ireland is terrible. And this is something that I really long for. And the vegetables, even the citrus trees, the olive trees, the palm trees. I mean, Deir al Balah, if you look at the name Balah in Arabic or in English, means palm trees. I haven't seen a single palm tree in Ireland outside Gaza. So it's horrifying. It's really something that has inflicted a lot of pain and nostalgia and longing and missing in me. So there's nothing like being with your family. Home is home. I've found a lot of difficulties. It's been really by far my most difficult year in my life. So I'm trying to adapt to a new system, but there's nothing like Deir al Balah. I've always talked about that.
Of course. I don't know if you heard it, but there was a laugh when you mentioned island food here in the room. Please, Ahmed, how is for you to live in London, but in the other way, you have a quite astonishing and really successful project, right?
Yeah. So it's really weird to live in the UK in general, because I traveled to the UK because the government gave me a scholarship to do my master's degree in the UK. And if I didn't travel to the UK, I would have been killed with the rest of my family on the 22nd of October, 2023. So this love relationship, and there is hate relationship, because it is the UK is the source of all of our problems. It is the UK that gave the Balfour Declaration to the Zionist forces that took away our country. And then living in the UK is also weird because you see all the people in the UK are very nice and supportive of Palestine. They protest and they march and they're amazing. Then you see the government that's totally the opposite of the people, and they never and they have always misrepresented their people, especially when it comes to foreign policy. It's this love-hate relationship, but I am a privilege to be there after all, because at least I have internet connection and I have electricity and I'm not starving to death, and I have a free healthcare, and I can travel and come and meet with you and talk about Palestine day and night. So it's this love and hate relationship, but there is also a lot of feeling of guilt that we are not among our people in Palestine, not among our brothers and sisters who have been living a genocide, and they have been living through hell during the past years.
Of course. Please, if there is any questions in the audience, and maybe this is a chance that we can we show Abubakar the room.
It would be my honor for sure.
Yeah, and maybe you can wave to Abubakar.
Hi, nice to see you.
Yeah, it's quite a full room, and people.
Bless you. Thanks for being here. What an honor. What an absolute honor to talk to you. And bless you all, and keep doing.
We are also very honored to speak with you, Abubakar. Please, anybody can do. Okay, I have. Yeah, sure. There is one question in the room.
I would like to ask both of you how your role as a Palestinian changed in terms of continue telling the story of the Palestinians, changed while you were in Gaza and then you are out of Gaza. How your role changed? It increased, it decreased? How do you see this? For both of you, I know that Ahmed left maybe a few years ago, but Abubakar left recently. I would like to know, because I left Gaza 5 years ago only also.
على راسنا من فوق. I'll answer this question. It's a very important question. I think the changes that, to be honest, when I was in Gaza and I was watching the demonstrations, I was really impressed by the courage of people in doing so. But when I moved to the West, I really felt desensitized. I really lost a lot of passion. I think I was appalled. I was shocked to see how I think people need to be more serious when it comes to Palestine, because I think if something happens to them or happens to their families, God forbid, or to their homeland, their action would have been on a very much bigger scale. And you saw that when the prices changed. Here in Ireland, for example, they blocked the roads. They went on global strikes. And some others in other countries in previous incidents, they went on hunger strikes. For what? Because for their own benefits. And people have to know one thing. This is not a matter of sympathy with the Palestinians, but it's also a matter of duty. In the West, and I'm Slovenia, I've heard about Slovenia, I think the government is also complicit in the genocide. And when you're talking about people living in the West, whose countries, whose governments are complicit, whose taxes, own taxes that you pay for the government are being used to kill us, then you're obliged to do what is in your capability to stop it and to call for a stop. Like, imagine if I were you and you were me, and I'm just continuing my life as if nothing is happening. So when I wanted to tell my story outside, it is a complete change. It's different from Gaza, because in Gaza, I'm just conveying that what people tell me and what I feel and what is actually happening to us. But when I moved outside Gaza, I wanted to tell people from day one that why you should do this. So it's different. I didn't know that people were not doing enough. They were not doing the least, in fact. A lot of people are just going to protest to exonerate themselves from the guilt. A lot of people, they are going to the demonstrations just to say, well, I've done what I've done for Palestine, and that's it. I don't have a duty to do anything more. And if we look at organizations around the world who take real action, like Palestine Action, and I know Ahmed can't speak about that, it's fine, but Palestine Action is a great organization that has been taking direct action to stop Israel from committing a genocide. They have been attacking Israeli manufacturers in the UK and around the world. They have been organizing these attacks. That is something that I really commend, and that Israel, wherever it thrives in Ireland on trade, it thrives in the UK on sales manufacturers. Israel doesn't have to have existence in Europe and in the West among you. You don't have to fund Israel indirectly or directly. That's what I'm telling people, because you've seen everything. We've told you the stories in Gaza. Now it's time. Well, it should have been even a long time before now, but it's now the time that we take direct action, and without direct action, we can't stop it.
Thank you, Abubakar. Ahmed?
I think Abubakar answered you. I don't think I have much more to add to Abubakar.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Another question? Maybe.
Hi. Well, actually, I don't have a question, but I wanted to say something. First, thanks to both of you, and thanks to the circumstances that you're still alive. I'm a journalist, and I'm also president of the Journalist Union. And I'm bothered, very angry and bothered by what's happening. And I'm angry, and I don't have hope much in journalism. You showed us that, the bravest people in the world, and you never lose hope. I never met a Palestinian, not just from Gaza, even from, we can see the pattern of killing and deliberate killings of journalists and media workers. Please, let's talk about media workers, not just journalists, because journalists don't like to be called, I'm a media worker, because it's more being prestigious if I'm a journalist, called journalist. But I am a TV journalist, and I do everything on my own, or I work in a team, and we need each other. And I've met a lot of journalists from Gaza who are not just journalists, even the others, but the journalists especially, living with this guilt, survival guilt. And also what you already told us, the same story. Of course, you miss, you're homesick. And what I resent my colleagues, that they don't use the right words. The words, what is happening. And it's not from just 7 October. We've seen apartheid that is going on in the West Bank, and Gaza has been under lockdown and a prison for a long time. But the journalists, even in a small country like Slovenia, in a small media, you don't need to be CNN, corporate bullshit, I'm sorry. Because even BBC, who is the biggest standard for the journalism in Europe, well, we only hear 30% of the information, and then don't use the word genocide, war crime, and exactly that journalists were killed or executed. And also that, not just that, you became a journalist by a chance and the circumstance, we have this dispute among the journalistic organizations about the numbers. I'm glad to use the number more than 260, and we should use the numbers that the Palestinian Journalist Syndicate actually gives us, because they're on the ground. They have people on the ground, and they know everybody, who is journalist and who is not, and who is a media worker, who is not. In the whole Palestine, I'm speaking. Not all are members of the union, but it doesn't matter. They know where to go when they have a problem. And this is the only lifeline with the outside world and other journalists. I've seen, okay, with the IFJ, because we're also part of that and we collected some money. I don't have the numbers, but Nasser Abubakar is also my friend, the president of Journalist Union, and I'm glad he was elected as the vice president of IFJ just a few weeks ago. I was at the conference of European Broadcasting Union just 2 weeks ago, and I was the only journalist from the whole EU, also Israel, unfortunately, is part of that, but there were no Israelis in the room, I'm sorry. I'm glad, but there were a lot of Palestinian journalists from Gaza. And nobody except the Palestinians used the word genocide, war crime. So this is the biggest problem and my resentment to my colleagues. This is the first thing. And the other thing, that it's not just about the internet and the electricity that you don't have. You are starved, you are mothers, fathers, brothers, sons, and you always say goodbye when you leave. And it's a duty, and we don't feel our human duty. You do that for us, so thanks.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Helena. For that, would you like to comment, to give?
Well, I just want to say something to you, because when you were speaking, I saw and I sensed that you are angry, as you should. You should be angry. As a journalist, you must be angry when you see a genocide taking place in Gaza, and when you see your fellow journalists, your colleagues being killed, being demonized, being dehumanized, being slaughtered with their families. You must be angry. And I have to say, if you're a journalist and if you're not angry when you see your brothers and sisters being murdered, then question your ethics, questions your principles, question your humanity. Because after all, a journalist is a human being. And if you detach your humanity from your professionalism, then I don't know what is left of you. So thank you for being angry. Thank you. Sometimes we need some anger. Sometimes we need this resentment. Sometimes we should not accept the status quo. Sometimes we should scream loudly at what we are seeing. We should not normalize the killing of journalists. We should not normalize the killing of media workers, as you said. And we must normalize the killing of human beings, after all. I mean, a journalist is not more sacred than a normal human being, an average human being. And an average human being is not more sacred than a journalist. A kid is like a woman, is like a man, is like a young man. We all should be sacred, and we should all be protected under international law and under the humanity laws, not under even international law. And I wish we have more journalists like you who are angry, because only then we will know that our future will be better. So I want to thank you, and I want to thank all of you for coming to this event. I mean, Palestine is thousands of miles away from you. Palestine doesn't affect you in any way possible. Whatever happens in Palestine, it will not affect you in a material way, but it affects you. Okay. What I wanted to say is that what is happening in Palestine right now does not affect you materially in this moment. It will in the future, but it affects you spiritually as human beings. And we should all feel that Palestine affects us, because they are our brothers and sisters. They might have different color of skin, they might have a different religion, they might have different culture, but they are human beings just like us. And you coming to events like this in an old pub like this means a lot to us Palestinians. And we, as I always say, we don't need your sympathy and your sorry, and all of these nice emotions. We need your action. And I believe that you have to have something. You have to act for Palestine before it's too late. And thank you very much again.
Thank you once again. Maybe Abubakar, would you like to add something for the final thoughts to this?
I'm so proud of them. I'm so privileged and honored to meet them online the least. As I said, I think I want to comment on one point that Ahmed brought to attention, which is we shouldn't normalize the deaths of human beings. That's true, but we should normalize the death of Israeli forces. We should normalize the death of this army. We should normalize their deaths. Yeah, they should be killed and they should be dead. And we have to be very brave to say this. We don't have to shy from saying this, because that is what should happen. And this entire occupation project of Israel that has been going on for more than 100 years, it has to end, and it must end. And people, we need a revolution to make sure that this is going to happen. And it starts by people. Palestine has already done the bigger part. Palestine is sacrificing. We have sacrificed not only, people have to understand one thing, that we haven't sacrificed only for us, but also for you. Like, imagine if Israel were not supported financially and militarily by the West and by Arab countries since October 2023. Israel wouldn't have for sure gone on with its genocide for more than 2 months. It wouldn't have been able to carry out a genocide on the scale we've seen in the past 3 years. So this is the problem that we have. I think you would be utterly appalled and we would rush to action, to take action against me if I support someone to come and murder you and your family. I think that is deplorable. I think that is something that you wouldn't accept. So what we need to understand in the end, that anger is important, and it's important to be angry, but we have to turn this anger into actions. Our emotions, in the end, if we don't turn them into actions, they're baseless, like they have no importance. So I hope we can do something together, and I hope that what I need from you, because this is my final message, and I hope to meet you again. But if you hear something, one last thing from me, as a Palestinian who lost nearly 60 members of his family, extended family members. Of course, Ahmed has also lost members, his immediate family members. What I want from you is only one thing, and I say it from my heart, and I represent Palestinians in saying it, because that's what they've told me. That's what my family always tells me. What I want from you is one simple thing. Just make sure that your government is not in any way complicit in this genocide. Don't let your taxes be paid for Israel. That's what I want. The moment you do that, the Palestinians would be forever grateful to you. We don't need anything else. Just stop your government complicity in the genocide that is happening to us. Don't let your taxes that you're going to pay tomorrow, next month, next year, turn into a rocket that may kill me or Ahmed if we return to Gaza at some point in the future. That's what we want. We don't need anything else. Just stop your government complicity.
Thank you both, Abubakar and Ahmed, for this event, and good luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Abubakar.